This is the Rolls-Royce Droptail Roadster, and it's one of the most expensive new cars of all time. But that's not the only incredible car that's just been revealed. There's also a quad-turbo hypercar from Denmark, an Italian roadster with more than 1900 horsepower, a British convertible with almost 700 horsepower, and there's even a brand new Lamborghini that's unlike anything you've ever seen before. And in this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about these cars. I'm Matt Watson, and you're watching CarWow. Buy, sell,
CarWow.
Let's get this straight. The Droptail is not just a Rolls-Royce Dawn with a fancy new body. It has a completely new chassis that's totally bespoke. And it comes with a removable hardtop instead of a fabric roof like other Rolls-Royce convertibles. But that isn't the most special thing about this new car. The details are absolutely unbelievable. The paint comes with 5 layers of clear coat, all with a different red tint to give the finished colour extra depth. The interior quality is unique too, and it has some of the most intricate carpentry of any Rolls-Royce ever. All the wood trim behind the seats was made by one person who spent all their time in a soundproof room to avoid distractions. It took them 9 months to finish because they only worked for 1 hour at a time. This was to make sure they were completely focused on getting everything exactly right. In total, there are more than 1,600 handmade wooden parts in the Droptail, and fitting them took almost 2 whole years. And there's also an exclusive watch in a crash-proof housing in the dashboard. In fact, the only normal part of this car is the engine. The Droptail comes with a 6.75 litre twin-turbo V12 like you get in the Phantom Saloon. Although even that's been tweaked. Here it produces 600 horsepower instead of the 570 horsepower you get in the Phantom. So, how much does all this cost? Well, Rolls-Royce doesn't like to talk about money when it comes to its bespoke cars. It's too vulgar! But this particular Droptail, which is called La Rossa Noire, reportedly cost even more than the Rolls-Royce Boattail. And that car was around £20 million. But that's just the beginning. Rolls-Royce will build 3 more Droptails, and these could end up being even more expensive than this particular car. Unfortunately, only the owners will know for sure. This is the Lamborghini Lanzador, and it's unlike anything the Italian brand has made before because it's an all-electric 2+2 GT car. It looks a bit like the love child between an Urus and a Huracan. That pointy front end and the slim headlights scream supercar, but it has the raised ride height of an SUV. That vent under the door reminds me of the Huracan, and there's something of the cyan about those rear lights. It's a bit of a shame that there's no V12 under the bonnet, but take comfort in the fact this thing is still packing plenty of power. It has 2 electric motors, 1 for each axle, and Lamborghini claims they produce more than 1 megawatt of power combined. That's around 1,360 horsepower. Obviously, it has all-wheel drive, as well as torque vectoring and active suspension to help slingshot you around corners. Lamborghini says that the Lanzador is inspired by spaceships, and you can see why when you step inside. I mean, look at that dashboard. It's as though it's come straight out of Star Trek. You have 2 massive screens, as well as a cool-looking thin center console separating you from your co-pilot. The Lanzador is just a concept for now, but it previews a new limited-run car you'll be able to buy in 2028. This all sounds good, but what if you're the sort of billionaire who has to have a V12 engine? Well, just check out the new Zenvo Aurora. Okay, so it looks quite a lot like an Aston Martin Valkyrie from the side, but it's actually a completely new and completely crazy car from the Danish engineers who designed the Zenvo TSR. That car had a 5.8 litre V8 with 2 superchargers, and it made 1,200 horsepower. That's enough for most people, but not for Zenvo. They gave the Aurora a 6.6 litre V12 with 4 turbochargers. But that's not all. They also added a 200 horsepower electric motor to boost the total power to around 1,450 horsepower. That's in the same league as a 1,500 horsepower Bugatti Chiron. But it doesn't stop there. Those stats are for the lightweight, track-focused Agile version. Zenvo has also built an even more powerful Aurora with 4-wheel drive. This one is called the Tour. It has the same bonkers quad-turbo hybrid V12, but it also gets a pair of 200 horsepower electric motors to drive the front wheels. This means that you get a total of 1,850 horsepower to play with. That's 250 horsepower more than a Bugatti Chiron Supersport has. Zenvo says the Aurora will also do 0 to 60 miles an hour in 2.3 seconds, which is actually the same time as I recorded in a Chiron Supersport. Now I reckon Zenvo might be downplaying the Aurora's performance, and I'll have to get one in to review so I can find out its true 0 to 60 time myself. I probably won't test out the top speed though, because Zenvo says the Agile version will hit 227 miles an hour, and the Tour model is even faster. It'll do 280 miles an hour. So how much is all this going to cost? Well, Zenvo is only going to make 50 Agiles and 50 Tours, and that sort of exclusivity doesn't come cheap. Each version is going to cost around £2.2 million each. That Zenvo isn't the only new car that'll crank out more than 1,800 horsepower. Hennessy has built a new version of the Venom F5 called the Revolution Roadster. It gets the same 6.6 litre twin-turbo V8 as a regular F5 Roadster with 1,817 horsepower on tap. And you can also get the upgraded aero package from the Revolution Coupe. This means you lose a bit of top speed, but the trade-off is loads of extra downforce. This means higher cornering speeds and the opportunity to terrify your passengers even more on a track. Hennessy is only going to build 12 of these cars. They've already sold every single one, even though they cost more than £2.3 million each. Ford has revealed the new Mustang GTD. Don't worry, the D doesn't stand for diesel like it does in a Volkswagen Golf. It refers to the GTD racing class for cars built to FIA GT3 regulations. That's right. This is a GT3 racing car for the road, and it's actually been developed by the same people who built the Le Mans winning Ford GT. It looks completely bonkers. I mean, just have a look at that rear wing. It's hydraulically controlled and can move about to provide maximum downforce. It's also made entirely out of carbon fiber to help keep the weight down. You won't be taking the GTD on a weekend away because the boot is filled with parts for the active suspension, hydraulics and the transmission cooling system. Under the bonnet is a 5.2 litre supercharged V8. Ford hasn't actually confirmed power just yet, however it's said that they were targeting 800 horsepower. Ford is also targeting a sub 7 minute lap time at the Nürburgring with this car. However, you'll have to wait until early 2025 to get your hands on one for yourself, and it'll cost you around £235,000. Fancy a V8 that's less extreme and a bit more elegant? Well, Aston Martin has just revealed the new DB12 Volante. It's a convertible version of the new DB12 Coupe, and I reckon it's one of the best looking soft tops you can buy. It comes with the same 4-litre twin-turbo V8 as the Coupe, an engine that is actually built by AMG. But this is probably a good thing, because the new DB12 Volante produces a whopping 680 horsepower. That's 41 horsepower more than you got in top-spec AMR versions of the old DB11. And it means the new DB12 Volante can blast from 0 to 60 miles an hour in 3.6 seconds. And Aston says it'll go on to a top speed of 202 miles an hour. Brabus revealed its first tuned Porsche last year, and now it's gone even more extreme with this newer version of the 911 Turbo S it calls the 900 Rocket R. It has a bonkers carbon fiber body kit that looks like something out of Need for Speed, and under all that carbon sits a tuned 3.8 litre twin turbo flat 6 with, yeah, you've guessed it, 900 horsepower. That's 250 horsepower more than you get in a standard Porsche 911 Turbo S, and that's already one of the fastest unmodified cars I've ever drag raced. In fact, you can watch it absolutely destroy a Huracan Performante and McLaren Artura in this drag race. But that's not the only car Brabus has been working on. It's also revealed a version of the Mercedes Maybach S-Class with an even bigger 6.3 litre twin-turbo V12, which puts out a truly bonkers 850 horsepower. If you're into SUVs, then there's also a 600 horsepower Brabus version of the new Range Rover. And if that's too subtle, what about a 900 horsepower Mercedes G63 6x6 pickup truck? Brabus calls this the Super Black, and it's one of the biggest, heaviest and most terrifying vehicles you can legally drive on the road. Even though it looks like something the army might use, it's still ridiculously quick. Brabus says it will do 0 to 60 miles an hour in 5.2 seconds, which is quicker than the new Honda Civic Type R. Maserati has just revealed the new MCXtrema. Now, it's a bit of a silly name, but it's a very serious car. It's based on the MC20 supercar, but Maserati has given it loads of mechanical and aero upgrades. It gets new turbos that boost the 3-litre V6 engine to 730 horsepower. That's almost 110 horsepower more than you get in the standard MC20. The Xtrema is also about 250 kilograms lighter than a standard MC22, and it has completely new bodywork that's loaded with wings, splitters and fins to produce race car levels of downforce. But there are a few downsides. Just like a racing car, this one isn't road legal. And Maserati is earning in a build 62 of them. Pininfarina is famous for designing some of the most beautiful cars ever made. But now it's making its own cars. It started with the Battista electric hypercar, and it's just revealed a new drop top called the B95. This uses parts shared with the Battista, like the 4 electric motors and the 120 kilowatt-hour battery developed by Rimac. So it has absolutely loads of power, 1900 horsepower to be precise. This makes it seriously quick. Pininfarina says the car will accelerate from 0 to 60 miles an hour in less than 2 seconds, and it will go on to a top speed of more than 186 miles an hour. That's slower than some electric hypercars like the Rimac Nevera, but it'll definitely feel fast enough because you don't have a proper windscreen to protect you from the elements. So it's probably a good thing that Pininfarina will sell you some bespoke helmets to match your electric hypercar. You could even go for a houndstooth pattern to match the Larry spec on this particular car. Speaking of which, Pininfarina will make sure each of the 10 cars it builds will be completely unique. So no copying anyone else's spec, okay? That sort of bespoke treatment is very expensive, and it means the B95 costs more than £3.7 million. If that's a bit out of your price range, don't worry, Pininfarina is working on something a little bit more mainstream. For starters, this car has a roof and it has 4 seats, and unsurprisingly, it's an SUV. Pininfarina hasn't revealed the production version yet, but it'll look similar to this Pure Vision concept car. The ultra posh interior will probably be toned down slightly for production, but the finished car might keep these crazy 3-piece doors. After all, I've just reviewed a Chinese car called the Hi-Fi X that has a very similar design. So no excuses, Pininfarina. Porsche has given itself a birthday present called the 911 ST. It's basically a 992 GT3 RS that has been put on a diet and given a retro makeover. It has a 4-litre flat-6 naturally aspirated engine that puts out 525 horsepower, but it's mated to a 6-speed manual gearbox from the standard GT3. You don't get any adaptive aero bits like those cars though, so it looks a lot more understated. And this helps make the ST very light. It tips the scales at just 1,380 kilograms. That's 40 kilograms less than a GT3 Touring, and it's also the lightest 911 you can currently buy. This means it's quick. It can accelerate from 0 to 60 miles an hour in 3.7 seconds. How does that compare to a GT3 RS with an automatic gearbox? Well, this clip will reveal all. That's better. 3.19, yes! Fisker is taking on Tesla with loads of brand new cars. The Ronin is a 4-seater electric convertible, a bit like the Tesla Roadster. It has 3 motors that produce a combined 1,000 horsepower, and Fisker says it'll have more than 600 miles of range. If everything goes to plan, it'll arrive in 2025 and cost from £300,000. Although, if the Tesla Roadster is anything to go by, don't hold your breath. The Fisker Alaska is an electric pickup that'll take on the Rivian R1T, the Ford F-150 Lightning, and the Tesla Cybertruck. One of the coolest features is the Houdini trunk. This lets you fold the whole of the back of the cab into the floor to carry stuff that's over 9 foot long. But Fisker isn't just going after the Tesla Roadster and the Cybertruck, it's also aiming to steal a march on Tesla's new compact car with this. It's called the PEAR, which stands for Personal Electric Automotive Revolution. It looks more futuristic than most new electric cars, and despite being fairly small, it has neat bench seats so you can carry up to 5 passengers. But the most revolutionary thing about the PEAR is how much it costs. Fisker says it'll set you back less than $30,000, which is about £24,000. That's almost £19,000 less than the cheapest Tesla Model 3 you can buy right now. I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a like. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. If you want to watch some more videos, I've picked a couple out for you there. I think you'll like. Just click on those windows to watch them. Or if you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to this channel. You can do that just by hitting the carwow logo there. Simple.